All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of the Inside Sports Podcast. That is with the DE capitalized, because it's obviously a daily Egyptian production. I'm your assistant sports editor, Cole Daly.
I'm sports editor, Joey Bernard.
And then actually, we have a new addition to the Inside Sports team. We've got Jordan Kruse. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Jordan Kruse, like you just said, I worked for River Region on the broadcast side of the Daily Egyptian. Now we're kind of going through a transitional period where things aren't really going to be the same anymore.
Yeah.
And we're trying to break away from the old mold and create our new vision. A lot of it's through sports too, so I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. You guys pitched this to me a couple of weeks ago, and I was all in from the beginning.
Yeah.
And you guys have some flaming hot takes as they've been described to me, so I'm interested to hear what those are. I've got some flaming hot takes myself, but I also try to keep you guys on your toes too, and maybe calm you down a little bit, because I know, me and Joey already have a deep-seated rivalry, so this should be interesting. I'm really excited.
I can only handle too much from a Bears fan, so
we'll address that later.
Yeah. All right, well, we might as well catch you up with a little bit of a Dogs at the Vet. Women's soccer's coming off of a win against Belmont on Sunday. They look really good in that. They shut the other team out, 1-2-0. Maddie Alalouf's playing really, really well. She's really been keeping them off the goals, and we've been scoring right at the right time. That makes us now, we're sitting at 4-2-2. Conference, we are 1-0-1? Am I right on that? Yeah, because we got that tie against Drake. So, yeah, we're keeping our undefeated streak alive. We're looking really good, and yeah, like I said, great performances by Maddie Alalouf. And you think about last year where it seemed like we couldn't stop anybody, and then now we're like scoring goals efficiently too. I know we're just saying the same thing every week, but this women's soccer team just looks a whole lot better, so I'm obviously excited for the season.
I love whatever Craig Roberts has been able to do with the team. Alalouf has 3 shutouts on the year so far. What more could you really ask for from a goalie? So.
She's doing really well, yeah.
And I think he's people talk about this as kind of a cliche word, but he's changed the culture.
Yeah.
The players on this year's and last year's team aren't all that different, but the culture is different. You can just tell by the way that they play on the field. It's fun to watch, and they have a winning record right now. We're going to hope they keep that for at least a little while longer, and maybe make it a little deeper run this year. That would be awesome.
I know.
And that program definitely needs it.
To go all the way from, it feels like the Mighty Ducks, where like we were at the bottom for like the last 2 years, and now I think we actually have a shot for to have a very good conference season.
Absolutely, yeah.
Women's volleyball, they're coming off 2 conference wins against Murray State and Belmont. They currently sit at 9-5, and they're looking pretty good too so far this year. They rolled off some conference wins, like I said. They've won 5 of their last 6 matches. Better conference record than last year already, so that's great. And I know we mentioned it last time on the podcast, but they already have more wins total than they did last year.
Yeah, we look a lot better.
What more could you ask for?
There's no better way to say it, yeah.
And I think a lot of the young stars have kind of like outperformed everyone else so far. But somebody specifically I wanted to highlight was just CC Bowman. They seem to be using her a whole lot more than you would typically think for like a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really great to see Saluki sports on the rise, especially the young stars and everything. They're winning a lot of these close games, I've noticed too, and it just seems like in the past they haven't been able to pull it off. So whatever Coach Ed Allen is doing this year, they seem to be working it through.
They feel really retooled. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of the same thing with the soccer team. Personnel-wise, it's most of the same people. Andrew Warsey's still there. Natalie Garcia, I believe she's in her senior season.
Yeah.
And like you said, CC Bowman. She's not the most intimidating volleyball player ever. She's not like 6'5", and she can get way above the net, but she plays hard, and that shows. And we're winning a lot of games this year just through that grit and extra effort. So
it would be 6 games in a row won, if not for blowing that Bellarmine game. They were on the match point, and then kind of lost that next 2 points, and then lost
which made personally, like a fan of me, like very nervous, because obviously we saw that a lot last year where we just couldn't finish the job. But now in these first couple conference games, we're looking really good.
Absolutely. Football team, the one everyone cares about, right? 34-17 win over North Dakota last week, coming off the win against Northwestern. You think the North Dakota game would be a typical letdown spot after a big victory like that. I mean, most FCS teams don't get the pleasure of doing that like we did this year. So that was awesome to watch. And the thing that I loved most about this win is the defensive line made Thomas Schuster, the North Dakota quarterback, uncomfortable all game. He couldn't get anywhere to throw.
Nothing.
A couple times he did, but it didn't really matter because offensively we were grounding and pounding like we always do. And the one thing that really made me happy above everything else is that we were getting the ball in the Cox brothers' hands. Avante, Deontay were absolutely incredible in that game. Both of those guys, Deontay hasn't played in a year or two, but both of those guys have pro talent. And I think that's one thing that kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. Going up against Northwestern, we may have had more potential NFL players on our team than Northwestern did. That's one thing I think people,
It's crazy to say, but
that's
I mean,
one thing.
you're kinda right.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't think people realize. And this team has the potential to make another deep run. I'm kind of forgetting about the first two games, honestly. I think the momentum that we have now is going to carry us pretty deep this year. I really do. This team, especially with their experience. I mean, we have a lot of 5th and 6th year guys at this point. So yeah, this team is going to be one heck of a team to watch.
Yeah, you talk about Deontay, where Deontay, when he's doing that, I believe it was like some 10-yard slant where Nick Baker just hits him, just immediately just takes it 70 yards to the house, 60 yards, whatever it was. That was awesome. And it just makes me think, was it last year? Was it torn Achilles or torn ACL? Because I believe he's experienced both.
I think the most recent one was the Achilles.
Yeah. And so the guy tears his Achilles. It's kind of just this really good comeback story that you like watching, where he's definitely played a pivotal role in our offense this year. For a guy that's come back from those 2 really tough injuries, and he just immediately catches it and lights it up. It's like Flash running down the sideline. It's really good to see that bounce back from him. And missing Landon Lenore, we were going to need somebody to step up, and Deontay really jumped into that role with his obviously brother.
I definitely think that high school chemistry that they had, because they did all go to the same high school, right? Is just rolling right into college so far. But I've always said it so far this year with the Salukis, it seems like they have a formula for winning. It's protect Baker and get that pass rush going. And North Dakota's game, that was a perfect example. They had 7 sacks, and Baker was protected all day. I'm not sure if they even allowed a sack or not on the O-line. And then Baker will do his thing with the Cox brothers. Easy win for Salukis if they do that stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of the football team, we are actually going to be talking to linebacker Zach Burrola, and we're going to get his take on, of course, the Northwestern game, last game against North Dakota, and then looking ahead to this Illinois State game, plus what's his son's favorite cartoon. So all of that you can check out in our next Saluki Space segment, and we will cut to that. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Saluki Space. Here we have linebacker Zach Burrola for the SIU football team. We're here to ask him a couple questions about how, that big game against Northwestern, and then how the rest of the season's been going. But before we get to that, I just got a couple questions that I wanted to ask you beforehand. Which coach gets the most fired up, whether it be at practice or in the game? Which coach is just irate just the entire game?
Oh, Coach Mack, linebackers coach. Easy answer. Coach Mack, he always fired up, real animated on the sideline. Kids make plays, we all make plays, and he's right there, right in our ear. So, and even when we mess up, he's right there in our ear too. So he's definitely the most hyped up.
Gotcha. And then could you give me the what's the team's best hype song for whether you're lifting in the weight room, or maybe you got right before the game? What's your guys' go-to hype song, or maybe a couple hype songs?
I'm gonna say the hypest one. The whole locker room know it. If this song turn on, everyone gonna jump around. It's probably gonna be "Super Gremlin" by Kodak.
That's a good one. That makes that one.
I love it. Yeah. That's great. And just kind of going off of more pregame stuff too, getting you hyped. What's kind of like your go-to pregame snack as well? Everybody has their own specific one. You got one?
I like pretzels. I like eating pretzels before the game. Maybe some candy, some Starburst, some Jolly Ranchers, Skittles. I like a little sugar rush right before the game. So
Marshawn Lynch, Skittles, right?
Yeah, Skittles.
Right.
But also, I was just kind of thinking, I thought of this one just this morning, kind of, but do you have kind of a personal preference of what you like to do during a play, I guess? Are you more of like a pass rush kind of guy? Do you prefer that, or do you like kind of dropping back in coverage even, or even like kind of rushing the QB? Excuse me, I said that wrong. Are you more of a pass rush kind of guy, or do you more like on the rush attack?
So in my personal opinion, I think I'm best between in the box, between the B gaps. facing centers, guards, and tackles, making plays on the running back inside the box. That's in my opinion, that's where I excel. So I would say more of a run-stopping defender rather than a pass-stopping defender. Coaches like me in, the run game. I've seen to get off the field a little bit when it comes to the pass game. But I think personally my specialty is definitely in the box.
Awesome. And then basically, does your son have a favorite cartoon that you put on for him, or like a YouTube channel that he likes to watch? Like, does he have anything like that?
Yeah. My son, his name's Zephany. He's turning 9 months in 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So his favorite TV show is called Hey Bear. It's this little YouTube thing. Type it in. It's just like a bunch of dancing fruit and vegetables, and they just jump around and stuff. So yeah, he liked that. He just sit there and smile.
Parents out there, put your kids on Hey Bear.
Yeah.
Know what's up. Alrighty, and then would you go ahead and do me a favor where you could just compare the first 2 weeks of the season to the last 2 weeks. Obviously, you guys go off that high season last year. You guys were playing really well. You come down, you lose to Incarnate Word, who you were favored over. You lose to SEMO, who you were favored over. But then now you get these 2 really good wins. What was the attitude like comparatively, whether it was on the field and in the locker room between those last 4 weeks?
I think that as a team, we definitely locked in. It's that simple. I think before the season we were too high. I think we all had expectations for ourselves where we were gonna kind of steamroll over people. But it took some humbling. We needed it to get back to work. Realize that people can't beat us. It took really focus. The energy changed from being kind of messy in a way.
I get what you're saying.
And after those 2 losses, it kind of relit all of our team to come together. Adversity brings you together. So it led us all to come together and realize that we're still, our goals are still there. We can still accomplish what we want to accomplish as a team. So we just needed to lock in. And you could tell even the energy being around the players and stuff like that. Things are a lot more business-like. We're there to do a job, not to, go and think this, think that. We respect all our opponent. And
it took you guys getting punched in the mouth a little bit.
Yeah, a couple times. You know what I mean? Had to wake up.
Yeah, exactly. I got you.
No doubt. It's definitely a big change in the energy, attitude, all that stuff.
And then just going back to that Northwestern game, I mean, what an environment to pull off that upset. And I mean, maybe you guys didn't even think of yourselves as underdogs going in. You had that much confidence, but just kind of, you guys ended up winning that game. No one was really giving you a chance. Where does that kind of rank in your college football experiences so far? I mean, what was that like?
It was definitely, top 2, top 3. Going into a Big Ten house and pulling off a W. We had a great crowd out there too, the Saluki crowd. I don't know how many was there, but we had a good little section. It was just great, man. Everyone, because everyone on the sideline was so happy. You just see everyone light up with excitement. All the hard work paid off. The 2 weeks prior to that, we knew that we just had to flush that behind us. And yeah, man, it's unbelievable. You can't explain it really, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And then speaking about that, I thought, even while watching the game, I thought specifically the linebacker room played really, really well. I think Branson had an interception. Was there another one of you guys that had an interception? I'm pretty sure
I had
it
an
was
interception.
Yeah, there it was. There you go. So, yeah, it was. You guys really pulled off a really, really good win there. So how does that feel, just from your group of guys? What did the linebacker coach say to you guys, and kind of did he, was there kind of a statement after the game of hey, our linebackers really, really pulled through this game?
There's not really much recognition. That's what we're supposed to do. We're held to a level where, we're expected to be great. Also, both forced fumbles that were recovered by linebackers, Chris Harris and Nico KK. Both of them recovered fumbles, so we have 4 turnovers in the linebacker room. That's our expectation, we expect to do that. We want to be great, we want to do this stuff, so when that kind of stuff happens, it's just a reward for all the work that we've been putting in.
Gotcha.
And then I kind of mentioned it earlier, just going into that Northwestern game, I feel like no one was giving you guys a chance in that game. Did you kind of take on that underdog role, would you say, or did you kind of push out the noise and just kind of focus on yourselves for that week or so leading up to it?
like the energy at an opponent's crowd, especially when there's that many, many people. Home game energy, it's great, but that underdog mentality when you walk into a place and you're not expected to win, that brings a whole nother like animal out of you. You know what I mean? Like there's a chip on your shoulder when everyone's doubting you. You know what I mean? So I mean, walking into an environment like that, in my opinion, it just brought out the best in every single person on our team.
Would you say that, people talk about this all the time, where you guys are playing a Big Ten Northwestern school, and you guys really played, in my opinion, comparatively to the 2 weeks prior, you guys played almost like there was no restrictions. And people talk about that all the time, where you feel like you guys have nothing to lose. You guys playing against Northwestern school, you guys are supposed to lose. They're paying us to come play them. Do you think that there was almost just this kind of like, all right, well, let's just go out there and do our thing instead of, maybe staying within the lines like you did the first 2 games? Was there a sense of that in the locker room or no?
I'd say you could kind of say that. We knew our backs were against the wall. We knew that we're 0-2. We knew that, our fan base, was questioning us, so we had something to prove. And it was a great opportunity for us to just come in with a lot of energy. Like you said, nothing really to lose. We're not in the conference yet. Play a game hard, fast, and what changed really was our preparation for practice, things leading up to the game. That is what really set us apart from week 3 from the 2 weeks prior.
Gotcha. And then, so to take it back to the North Dakota game, where you guys played really well, you guys really shut them out, and then now you open in the conference 1-0. But I was out there, I was in the stands, I was sitting in the student section. That heat was killer.
Yeah.
It was, I felt like I was panicking over there.
Yeah.
Now, I can't even imagine playing in that. Describe that to me. Describe playing in that. There's not a cloud in the sky. I'm looking up, waiting for a cloud, something.
Yeah, see, it's funny because, when you're playing, you don't really feel that heat, because it wasn't that hot to where it was like, oh my goodness. But it was crazy because my family was sitting in the stands as well. They're telling me, it's super hot. But I realized it was hot when we went to sing the song after. And we were standing right there in the sun on the bottom of the bleachers.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I was like, man, it's hot. I took my helmet off and I was just feeling the sun beat on my face, and I was just like, man, it's hot out here. But in the game, you can't really feel. You're not paying attention to none of that. You're just locked in on the game and stuff like that. You got water, cool you down and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
of course.
it's not that bad.
I made the mistake of wearing black that day.
Yeah.
That was my big mistake.
Did you wake up yesterday kind of with a little bit of a burn on that face or whatever?
Nah, I'm from the West Coast, man. So I get the sun a lot.
Yeah.
I get the sun a lot.
Appreciate that.
Wish I could say the same for myself.
But yeah, just talking about that game, your guys' defensive performance was just amazing. That pass rush was just really fierce all day. I was telling my parents about that and family weekend and everything. 7 total sacks. I feel like they kind of made that linebacker group. It was kind of easy for you guys that day, and you guys also limited them to only about 20 rushing yards too. Would you kind of say the D-line kind of opened up everything for you guys in that linebacker room?
Yeah, no doubt. I think Coach Petrino had a great scheme for us this past week. I think our guys went out and executed it, and we were rewarded with stats. Obviously, we take big pride in our rushing game. We wanted to change that from last season. Last season, we were not good in the rushing defense aspect to part of our team, so that was a big focus this offseason, was to make our run defense better. And we've been answering that call, I think, this year. But the defensive line, man, they do a lot of work that's, not rewarded, not praised, and they should be, because, like you said, it opens up a lot of stuff for us behind them. It brings the attention from the O-line onto them. They're just doing a great job all around. I think the defense, we're just playing pretty well right now.
All right, so the Salukis of old are back. You guys are back to 500, which is obviously a really good thing, and you guys have moved back up into the AP poll after falling out of it 2 weeks ago. You think your ranking's justified? I'm pretty sure you guys were coming in at 24, maybe even a little bit higher after the win against North Dakota. You think you guys deserve to kind of be up to where you were before? You guys think you finally figured out where you're at, or do you think it's kind of justified based on how the first 2 weeks went?
I think we should live in our reality. I'm big on You know, don't expect things. Don't be too high on yourself. The reality is we're 2-2. We lost our first 2 games. Our first game we were blown out. That's their decision to, you know, see where we're ranked. We obviously think high of ourselves and know what we can do. But when it comes to like rankings and stuff like that, you know, you let them do the talking. We know what we're capable of, and we'll just see the results at the end of the season.
Gotcha. And then now you got your next game coming up this week against Illinois State. I call it the battle for Illinois. You know, I don't know if I'm too worried about Western Illinois right now. No shade, but kind of shade. Anyways, but yeah, Illinois State's good. What should we expect from that game? We're gonna go out and get a win on the road. I mean, we do kind of, so far this season, we've struggled with Red Birds. I mean, Cardinals, and then the Red Hawks. So we really got to pull through in this one. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, we're going up there. Like you said, it is a rival game. A lot of the players on the team, we're all thinking that too, saying it all week. It is a rival game. I know they're having a big event up there this weekend for our game. I know they're bringing out some new uniforms. So you know, it's gonna be a good time. Everybody should watch.
Yeah.
And then that game's still, it's in the conference again. Last week was your first one, so it was nice to start 1-0, I'm sure. But just what does it kind of mean to be able to start off 1-0, and then I feel like you guys just take a lot of pride in beating your other Missouri Valley opponents. Just what would another win kind of mean for you guys this upcoming week?
Another win is one step closer to our goal. Our goal is to win conference championship, national championship. So each game faces new challenges. Each game faces adversity. It just brings us all closer together. A win just means that we're one step closer, and the next week is another opportunity to get closer to our goal.
And then, just finally for the last question that we got for you today, any sort of ideas on defensive schemes you guys are looking at? You guys looking at bringing the blitz a little bit more? You guys dropping back into coverage? Obviously, maybe you don't want to give that out going ahead against the game, but just anything that you can give us. What's coach said as in the locker room?
I'll tell you, our scheme is speed, and knowledge. I'm gonna say speed and knowledge. That's what I can give you.
All right, there you go.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
well that about does it for our interview with linebacker once again Zach Burrola for the SIU football team. Good luck this weekend against Illinois State. We really hope you guys pull up the road win so we can get back over 500, and we will see you at the Told You So. So, welcome to the Told You So segment where me, Joey, and now Jordan are going to tell you which games to look out for and which underdogs you should be looking at, whether, you know, maybe it's a little bit of gambling or, you know, you just want to prove your friends right. So, last week, I'm now sitting at 7-6. Unfortunately, didn't have the best week. Baylor did beat Iowa State, like I said. Minnesota beat Michigan State. The only problem is I told you to worry about that Kansas State and Oklahoma game, but I didn't pick Kansas State in the end. I feel like an idiot now, especially with, you know, how Kansas State's been owning Oklahoma these past couple of years.
You were hyping up Kansas State so
I
much.
was.
I'm surprised you didn't.
I was, and at the very end I was like, but Oklahoma's home. Big mistake on my part. Should have gone with my gut. You won't see that happen again. I told you Duke over Kansas. Kansas won. Good for them. Tennessee beat Florida, however, so I was correct. And then if it wasn't for that stupid field goal in the Arkansas-Texas A&M game, I'd be sitting at 8-5. But can you believe it hits the top? I know you saw that. It hits the top of the right goalpost on the very top and just goes straight up. I don't think I've ever even seen that.
Yeah, that was one of the crazier things I've ever seen too. And I think we're going to talk about Texas A&M a little bit more later. They definitely didn't deserve to win that.
I know.
Arkansas deserved that one. A little bit of a look ahead for Arkansas going into Alabama next week, but they still played well enough to win that game. And then to have it end like that, again, I've never seen that before. That was nice, and I felt really bad for the Arkansas.
I've been very vocal on this podcast. I do not buy into Texas A&M at all. So, but looking ahead to this next week, we've got Kentucky at Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss is favored, even though they're they're lower ranked in the AP poll. Ole Miss is at home, so we can expect that. I don't know if this technically counts as an upset. I'm going with the same thing. I like Ole Miss over Kentucky. Kentucky runs more of a pro-style offense. Ole Miss likes to spread it out. Jackson Dart, despite a little bit of struggles he's got right now, I still think he's a really good QB. Zach Evans, They still have Snoop Connor. They might still have
No,
Snoop
he's in the
Connor.
NFL. Actually.
Yeah.
I forgot what team he's on, but he is in the NFL.
I'm pretty sure they've got somebody, whether it's Ulysses Bentley the fifth or something like that, that transferred in.
Quinshawn Judkins.
There it is. Yeah,
Yes.
Judkins.
And he's their leading rusher. And I think Evans is probably the better back. So the fact that he's their leading rusher doing so well, I think it makes them really, really scary.
Yeah, we got to watch out for Ole Miss in these next couple of years. But I got Ole Miss in that game. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's a good pick. I mean, they're at home. I mean, I like the upset pick.
Yeah.
So.
And then we have Oregon State at number 12, Utah. This one is a scary one because it's kind of the same thing as Kansas State and Oklahoma. Utah obviously had a disappointing loss, and light way to put it, against Florida with a team that really wanted to make the playoff this year.
Yeah.
But Oregon State has only looked good this year, in my opinion. I've loved everything I saw against Oregon State. I think I talked about that last week on the pod with Oregon State and USC. I might have not mentioned it, but that was definitely kind of a trap game for USC on the road at Oregon State. The only reason I'm going with Utah in this one is because Utah's at home. I know I'm literally doing the same thing as Kansas State and Oklahoma, so if I might be biting my tongue on that one next week, but I like that pick. Any thoughts on that?
Honestly, I'm kind of switching my mind kind of on the spot here. I'm thinking Oregon State's offense is going to kind of go off. I mean,
QB Chance Nolan's really freaking good.
Oh, yeah, and
There's no way to fuck
USC kind of exposed them last week. I mean, Chance Nolan had 4 picks, so
yeah.
I mean, this is definitely going to be the toughest game of the year for Utah so far, so I'd have to go with Oregon State on this one.
Yeah.
No, definitely. This is going to be a close one. I am going to disagree with you here. I think Utah is going to win the game. Agree with you, disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
They play similar styles. They both play smash mouth football. I just think Utah will just be that much better at execution. I think Utah wins. It'll be close. But I do like the matchup for both teams. I think it plays to their strengths pretty well.
Yeah. And another good game to check out is Oklahoma State at number 16 Baylor. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out who was supposed to be. All right, whatever. Another good game to check out is Oklahoma State at. Another good game to check out is number 9 Oklahoma State versus number 16 Baylor. After that BYU game, I have also been vocal about how I don't like Baylor very much. I like Oklahoma State's quarterback Spencer Sanders. He's been there for what seems like 10 years with obviously COVID rules and red shirt and all that stuff. So give me Oklahoma State in this one on the road at Baylor. I think even though OSU's defense isn't as good as it used to be, I just like them more than Baylor. I like what I've seen from them. Their defense is still consistent, you gotta think, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think when you're picking a winner of a game, you got to think about where both teams are emotionally. Which team is looking for that bounce back. I think Baylor already had their bounce back from that BYU game last week against Iowa State.
That's good.
Oklahoma State had a bye week last week. By the time this game kicks off, they would have already been preparing for 2 weeks. So I think Oklahoma State is the play here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think Oklahoma State is probably the play here. OSU's coming off a bye. I think people kind of are starting to forget about that. I haven't heard any of you guys mention that, but Baylor's also definitely a much slower offensive scheme than OSU, and I just think it's a recipe for disaster against Baylor, I should say. Yeah. So, I'm going with OSU.
I definitely hope Spencer Sanders really has a better game than last year's Big 12 championship. Obviously, this is a rematch of that, and Spencer Sanders against that Baylor secondary. He didn't look very good, and it made me feel for him because he's so old. It would have meant a lot, surely, but yeah, Baylor pulled out the win. I don't think that happens this week. I think I got Oklahoma State.
And one more thing on Spencer Sanders, he's playing really well to start this year.
Well.
Granted, not against not great competition.
Yeah.
This can be a game where, if he somehow ends up winning the Heisman, this might be a game where we look at and say, okay, this is the game that springboarded him up the rankings because Oklahoma State, especially in that Big 12, there's not really one elite team. If they go on to win it, this might be his moment. This is where it's make or break for him.
Yeah, we mentioned hot takes coming from me and Joey. I didn't understand Spencer Sanders for Heisman was really in there. But yeah, let's get to the next point. We got number 2.
Where that came from.
Number 2 Bama and number 20 Arkansas. I don't think we need to spend much time on this. I definitely like Arkansas this year. They're kind of sleepy, but to me, I just don't. I mean, it's Bama, and I hate that because I don't like Bama. But the answer, whenever you're in doubt, is always Bama. You kind of did a little there. What do you think?
I disagree. And
wow,
I guess
Arkansas.
I guess the hot
Mr. Hot Take is
I guess
this
I
guy.
am going to throw out a hot take. I think Arkansas wins this game.
Wow.
I do. And I'm not just saying that because I'm also a Bama hater, but Alabama, the receivers are not. Remember when they used to pump out receivers like it was nothing?
I
The
know.
Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. I mean, look how Ruggs isn't doing anything anymore. But Judy and all these guys, they're not there anymore. I mean, they just don't have the talent like they used to have. It's kind of crazy to think about how they recruit. Arkansas plays a style where they can keep the ball out of Bryce Young's hands.
That's true.
One thing about Bryce Young, I will say, is I really don't think he's better than like the top 2 or 3 NFL prospects if you just look at the way he plays. But he always makes that clutch play at the end. So
He does.
that's the only thing I'm worried about. I think the point spread's pretty big. I think Arkansas covers that easily, but Bama might win the game, and if they do, it's going to be because Bryce Young makes a fantastic play because he's the real deal in clutch time.
So
Start making
are
good
you
points.
a KJ Jefferson fan then?
So I'm not the world. I like KJ Jefferson. I don't think he's a world-beating like top 5 quarterback in the country. He is a good quarterback though, and I think he's the kind of quarterback that can beat Bama in that, like I was just saying, keeping the ball out of Bryce Young's hands, especially at the end of the game. And let me paint a picture for you, because I've been thinking about this for the last 12 hours or so. Right before I went to bed, I was thinking about this. Arkansas is up by 4 somehow. I don't think they will be, but they're up by 4, right? Like 3rd and 2 on the 50-yard line. If they don't get it, they're probably going to have to punt the ball back to Alabama. Or 4th and 2 maybe. Maybe they'll just go for it. You know where the balls go. KJ Jefferson, big dude, right up the middle, first down. Arkansas bleeds the clock out, they win the game.
My only argument against that is I don't know if you watched the Texas A&M game, but this guy tried to jump 12 feet over his offensive line and then just handed the ball to Texas A&M. See, if we're talking about
I do
KJ
see
Jefferson
that,
fans,
yes.
I'm a big KJ Jefferson fan, and I think that I don't think he makes a mistake like that. I'm doing that out of hyperbole.
And
but
that's another reason why they definitely deserve, because that was on the goal line. Like they deserve to.
Exactly. But the thing that scares me about the scenario that you just painted, if that's not 3rd and 2 and that's instead of 3rd and 7, and we need a pass to get done, the guy's dynamic. There's no way to argue that. His legs and how big he is. He's basically almost like a Josh Allen.
Sort of, yeah.
I mean, he's not like obviously on that level. That's very clear.
Right.
But if we're talking about like comparatively to NCAA guys, he can get that scramble and run, but he's also going to have like 1 or 2 of those throws where you're kind of like, that was just in the dirt, man. Like, what are you doing? So
I agree, and that's why I don't think he's like a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, it makes me
there is that
nervous.
limitation.
I don't 100% disagree with your pick because I like Arkansas. The big guy for me on Arkansas is Rocket Sanders, Raheem Sanders, nicknamed Rocket. He is a baller. He's one of my favorite backs in the country. It's Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving for Oregon, and Rocket Sanders that all have have all caught my eye this year.
I wonder why you're a Bijan Robinson fan.
Yeah. Well, come on. I mean, Texas. I mean, obviously you fumbled it.
Do we want to talk about last week?
No, we don't. All right, next game we got here is Iowa State and Kansas. I don't think we should spend too much time on this one because I think Kansas, everybody.
Yeah,
You're not buying the Kansas hype?
I'm not buying
No
Kansas.
one's.
Kansas.
No,
Yeah, there we go.
No, I buy the Kansas hype. I don't buy them in this spot.
Why? They're at home against a whatever
Jalen
Iowa
Daniels.
State team.
I'm buying Iowa State in this spot, coming off lost to Baylor last
Wow.
week, and I think I mean, look at you guys. Everyone is hopping on Kansas right now. Kansas,
That's true.
Kansas is really really good, and if Kansas went 12-0, won the playoff this year, I'd be happy as heck. I mean, that would be so fun to watch, right?
Insane.
But I'm trying to be smart here. I think Iowa State wins the game.
Okay.
I do.
So you said
I think it's just the spot. It's just everyone's hopping on Kansas, mad they're not ranked in the top 25. I think that screams Iowa State to me.
and I kind of get what you're saying, and I would agree with you if Kansas came in at the AP poll at number 24. The fact that they're sitting outside of it, I could see that locker room being like, they don't believe in us, blah, 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 blah.
No,
Go off that whole roll.
and you're not wrong on that. You're
Yeah.
not wrong on that.
I think that Kansas is going to be like, all right, they didn't put us in the top 25 this week. Well, let's blow Iowa State out by 35.
And I'll be
we'll
okay
show
if that happens. I'm just trying to be
Yeah,
smart.
I'm a big Jalen Daniels fan. He's like second in the country in QBR right now.
Yeah, he's a stud.
It's insane.
He's a touchdown machine.
Touchdown machine. He can run fast. He's a stud.
Yeah. Love Jalen Daniels. For the next game, number 22 Wake Forest and number 23 Florida State. You know, we were prepping a little bit before we got in here, and I was talking to Joey. I had originally picked Florida State, and come on, Joey, why don't you tell me why you flipped me on Wake Forest?
Just had to bring it up to you because it was just blowing my mind how you picked Florida State, even though Wake Forest's offense is just absolutely lights up the scoreboard.
It's Sam Hartman, man.
I think it's just a recipe for disaster against Florida State. I mean, why in the world you picked Florida State just baffled me.
Well, Florida State, I mean, Jordan Travis, I've always been a big Jordan Travis hater. No offense to you, Jordan. I know you're watching. But he's definitely improved this year. The only thing that was just weird, both these teams are weird to me. And I know it's a stupid analogy to use where they're weird. That's a stupid description. But Florida State has that super weird game against LSU. And then they have a really weird game against Louisville, too, where Jordan Travis is hurt, but then they somehow come back because they literally just rocket it down the field to their 6-7 wideout. I originally picked Florida State just because I think their defense has really improved. They've made a lot of strides. Pretty sure they're still undefeated, unless I'm mistaken. But yeah, they're playing well. But Wake Forest, plus Florida State's home, that's another important thing to mention. But if Wake Forest can put up, I believe it was 45 on Clemson's defense, which Clemson's defense is the real freaking deal. Yeah, Joey's flipped me. Give me Wake Forest in this one over Florida State. I think that Florida State's definitely a good program and they're headed in the right direction, but I like Wake Forest.
Who's Florida State's best win this year? I mean, is it LSU? I mean, I think they beat Louisville by 4.
Yeah. You make a good point there, but yeah.
Louisville's not a terrible team, but they're certainly not something to write home about either. This was a game that I still don't know who I think is going to win. I think I'll just ride with you guys because, kind of like the Iowa State principle, the spot kind of makes sense for Wake Forest, bouncing back here, but it's kind of a tough ask to go to Florida State when they're having their best season ever. That crowd's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of conflicted, but I'll ride with you guys on Wake Forest with this one.
Yeah. This one made no sense to me. Obviously, with these being underdog picks, I like to check the books. And Mississippi State at home is favored over Texas A&M. Now, we've already made it clear on this podcast, I'm kind of a Texas A&M hater. I don't exactly love Jimbo Fisher's offense. Max Johnson is the definition of mid. I mean, thank God they changed from Haynes King, but I mean, Max Johnson is just not that guy. He's righted the ship a little bit, but I mean, any improvement from Haynes King is good. But I mean, Texas A&M still's got a really good defense. I mean, their running back, A-Chain.
I didn't think that's how it would be pronounced. Then I looked it up the other day. I was like, wow, okay.
A-Chain. I mean, it's a good team. You're going to tell me that Mississippi State, who just lost to lowly LSU, is going to beat Texas A&M? I know that they're home, but I mean, come on. Am I being crazy on this one? What?
I mean, I think Mississippi State's going to win the game. I think you're a little bit crazy. But I think you're crazy, and I think you're not because your hatred for Texas A&M. I think it's in the right place, coming from the right place.
Your hatred's coming
from the right place. They're not a good team. All I wrote down here was Texas A&M is a bad team.
That's true.
Masquerading as the number 17 team in the country. They're a bad team. I think that Mississippi State lost to LSU. That was LSU's bounce back game after the loss to Florida State. So I know I mentioned a lot like bounce back in spots or whatever. I think it makes sense, especially because these guys are the same age as us, and I'm not the same week to week as I am the week before. So I think Mississippi State is the good play here against a bad Texas A&M team. I really think they are.
But the teams they beat so far this year, I mean, Mississippi State talking about, just how impressive have you been with that, I guess?
I mean, they've done what they've needed to do against the crappy teams. Obviously, I was disappointed with the loss at LSU, but I think this is the game where they put themselves on the map. This is the game that they've been preparing for. This is one that they've circled since that LSU game to say, okay, we're at home in front of our fans. 3 o'clock kickoff, they're going to come out and they're probably going to throw the ball like 60 times. So what Mike Leach offenses typically do.
Yeah.
Will Rogers, don't forget about him. I mean, before the season, he was a dark horse Heisman candidate. Then they lose the LSU game. I'm saying before the season.
I know, but
I'm
so anti-Will that I'm. You can throw it 60 times.
He's a product of the Mike Leach system, as everyone is, right?
He is.
I mean, we all saw how Gardner Minshew ended up doing in the NFL. He had like 2 good games, and we haven't heard his name since. So, I think Mississippi State wins the game. I think they probably throw it 60 times. They may not score that many points, but I think they're going to score enough to win because that Texas A&M offense is still bad. I know Max Johnson, like you said, he's the definition of mid, better than Haynes King, but they're still bad. Jimbo Fisher is a clown. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Give me the Bulldogs.
Alrighty. Well, we differ, but I can see your perspective as well. Then finally, we have the game day pick. We got number 10 NC State at number 5 Clemson. Coming into the season, I was big on NC State. After that East Carolina game, though, I really got put off. They've done good in their last couple weeks. It seemed like they filled a lot of those holes. They still got a really, really good defense. Devin Leary. another one of those guys that I don't know if he can really carry anything. But that also goes for DJ. I mean, the Wake Forest game was the first game that we've seen from DJ in over like 2 years of him being better than mid. I mean, it's just how do you say it? I mean, I honestly would have loved to see Klubnik at this point of the year, because I think that the little bit that we got to see at the end of whatever their first game of the year was, Georgia Tech, I really liked what I saw there. But I'm going with Clemson, because as we mentioned, Clemson's got a crazy good defense. I know they gave a lot of points against Wake Forest, but Wake Forest, you got to remember, has got that spread offense, like throw it down the field. NC State's not like that. NC State likes their pro style. Devin Leary is not going to light you up for 400 yards in Death Valley. Give me Clemson on this one.
And I've also heard that possibly Hurricane Ian might affect the circumstances of this game. So who knows?
It could.
Yeah, who knows if this will even be played or if this will be moved somewhere. But that might be a factor against, I guess, that Clemson might have to face, or just NC State. Both teams, I guess, would just have to worry about that. But I don't know if Clemson's defense is just as great as what people say. I mean, giving up 55 last week to Wake Forest, I mean, that's a little bit of a concern.
It is, but I think that, like I mentioned, like that spread offense versus NC State's kind of, minimize it. I still like Clemson on this one.
Yeah, my head says Clemson, my heart says NC State. I think it'd be great if Clemson just went away forever. NC State gets their shot in the limelight, but I just can't visualize NC State winning this game. Like, I wish I could. I just can't. I hate to say it, but I think Clemson's going to win this game.
Yeah. All right, so that does it for the picks, but I think that there are some important players to talk about. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Caleb Williams in last week's pod and how we're pretty high on him for win the Heisman. Goes out and has kind of a disappointing week against Oregon State, kind of struggles a little bit. That being said, I think that everybody has one of these games. Everybody's got a weird game. Bryce Young had a pretty weird game against Texas. It's like kind of like you mentioned where he came up clutch at the end, but even still could have done better against from what I've watched, a pretty bad Texas defense. So I still think Caleb Williams is my favorite in my eyes. I know everybody's loving C.J. Stroud, and he did put up a really good game against Wisconsin, but as publicly stated, I'm not a big C.J. Stroud guy. I don't know where you fall on that, but
I think he's the best player in the country right now.
Alrighty, well, clearly we'll get rid of him on the pod, but
I don't really think that's even biased. I mean, I don't know if you watched the Ohio State-Wisconsin game.
Stats-wise.
It's so easy. It's just so easy for him. And, maybe he's a product of his environment. He's throwing a lot of wide-open guys. But he's doing what needs to be done. I think right now, if Ohio State and USC were to both go undefeated the rest of the season, I bet CJ probably wins it. But any sort of hiccup from CJ, and if USC goes undefeated, I think Caleb Williams is a really good pick there. I think he's a really good player as well.
Yeah, and then somebody that I think we should really start talking about sneaking in there. We've seen these skill position guys really kind of creep into the Heisman race. Not exactly running backs anymore, like it kind of used to be, but obviously it's more of a quarterback's award. But then you see Devontae Smith win one a couple of years ago. This one might be out on a limb here. Brock Bowers, pound for pound, might be the best player in the entire country as a sophomore.
No, he might be.
I mean, tight end for Georgia, he is insane. I mean, I thought when I watched Kyle Pitts at Florida, I was like, this guy is the player. He was going to change the league. Granted, he's done nothing for the Falcons. I don't know if that's Arthur Smith's fault or Marcus Mariota, but made the mistake of drafting him on my fantasy team, I can tell you that much. But Brock Bowers is insane. The combination of how fast and strong he is. I mean, imagine if Gronk ran like a 4.4. That's literally what Brock looks like out on the field.
No, absolutely.
It's insane.
You have him better than Kyle Pitts here on our notes.
I do. I mean, I think that, maybe if you're telling me I'm on the 7-yard line and I just need a little go route, just throw it up 1v1, I'd probably still take Kyle Pitts. But if you're talking about a guy that I could just hit in a slant over the middle and he takes it 60 yards to the house, I don't even know if I'm picking a wide receiver over Brock Bowers right now in the country. Like, we've seen multiple plays
I wouldn't.
this year where Brock Bowers has just gone, all right, well, I'm just going to plow over like 3 people and just get to the end zone from 70 yards out. So I love Brock. He's insane. Don't love Georgia, but man,
well,
Brock
people were doubting Georgia before the year because they didn't really have that go-to wide receiver, but they don't need it. They have one. It's Brock Bowers.
They have 3 goated tight ends, so it really doesn't even matter.
Hopefully his transition to the NFL isn't as interesting as Kyle Pitts is so far.
Seriously. I don't even blame him.
That stinks because he's so talented.
I know.
It's amazing.
I don't know if it's, I haven't watched film or anything, but I hope it's not his fault because he's one heck of a talented player, and it just sucks.
And then we kind of mentioned bringing the running back Heisman back. I think with just this year's quarterbacks, it's almost like there's kind of a stalemate about Bryce Young. Caleb Williams and C.J. Stroud are definitely in that conversation. But right now, the guy who's scoring a shit ton of touchdowns is Blake Corum for Michigan. He's basically carrying this offense right now. I probably wouldn't pick him. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say go put the house on him, but I think he's really playing great, and we might see him in New York come January. So who knows about that? And yeah, that's pretty much it for college football. Let's go to Joey and let's see how much NFL he gets wrong.
So for the NFL, last week I did a little bit better than the week before. I went 2 for 5 the week before. This past week I went 3 for 5. My Packers survived a defensive duel against the Bucks. I picked them to win. The Rams beat the Cardinals. They had a pretty impressive game, but it was still somewhat close. Cowboys beat the Giants last night. That was a little bit of a weird game, another defensive front. But the Dolphins upset the Bills. I did not see that one coming, and that was like a lower scoring game too. So I'm just very interested in how that even happened whatsoever. But Tua is kind of impressing me so far this year, but whatever, we'll get to that. And then the Titans beat the Raiders. I kind of thought that everything was going to work out for the Raiders this weekend. It just still hasn't happened. They made a little bit of a comeback attempt late there, but just didn't work out. But yeah, I'm going to get into my picks. I got the Commanders facing the Cowboys. I think this is an interesting matchup. Neither team kind of looked that great last week. The Cowboys' offense is still kind of stagnant without Dak. And the Commanders, they allowed 8 sacks to the Eagles. I mean, they were just...
It's rough, man.
Nothing was just working out for the Commanders last week. So I think the Cowboys are just going to have to rely on the run game. I mean, without Dak, Cooper Rush, I'm not really sure if he's that guy. He's more of a game manager, in my opinion, to be honest, so far. So, and I think they have a formula to win against the Commanders. Run the ball, high power defense. I'm going with the Cowboys there. 23-20 is my final. Carson Wentz, he was fine in Week 1 when he was protected. I just don't think they can protect him against Cowboys' defensive front.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I think, like you said, Cowboys 23, Commanders 20. I'm not even the biggest Cowboys guy. I don't love Cooper Rush. I don't love their weapons, but I could honestly see the Cowboys winning by 10 plus here. I think that they have the perfect recipe to go against the Commanders. You got Carson Wentz, who's going to throw a pick. I mean, absolutely going to throw a pick in this game. You got Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence just constantly attacking. Have you ever seen Micah Parsons this year? I mean, I think he's penciled in Defensive Player of the Year. He's insane. So he's definitely going to get to Carson Wentz a couple times, and that's going to cause Carson Wentz to do his Carson Wentz-like stuff. I'm not saying it's confirmed, but I don't usually like the Cowboys, but I like the Cowboys in this one. I can't believe they're starting 3-1, but yeah, that's pretty much what I got.
I think Cooper Rush is now 3-0 as a starter. Won again last night. I think the spot makes sense for the Commanders, but why would you doubt Cooper Rush and the Cowboys at this point? I mean, all he does is win. He doesn't make the huge mistakes.
He doesn't.
That's the thing, is he'll make a good throw every now and then, keep you in the game. And again, the pass rush was just absolutely electric on Daniel Jones and the Giants last night as of Tuesday.
Been killer all season.
Killer all season. Marcus Lawrence himself had like 3 sacks last night.
Yeah.
Cowboys are going to win this game. Like you said, Carson Wentz is going to do Carson Wentz things. Cowboys.
CeeDee Lamb had a terrific one-handed catch just right into his arms that he caught in the back of the end zone. I was so impressed with that.
Yeah, and one more thing, I hate to do this. Underrated guy on the Cowboys receiving core, Noah Brown.
Love Noah Brown.
He seems to have a good connection with Cooper Rush. I don't know where it came from.
They both played on the practice squad together for years. That's what it comes from.
And he is an Ohio State guy, so shout out to him. But yeah, Noah Brown, underrated guy. I actually picked him up for my fantasy team because if I ever need him in a pinch, I might throw him in.
That's not a bad thing. He gets a lot of targets. He may not get the down the field stuff, more like kind of CeeDee Lamb does, but he gets those targets. He'll get you receptions, stuff like that.
Interesting fantasy pick there.
Yeah.
I kind of like it, I guess. So next game I got Bills and Ravens. Both of these teams are 2-1, but the Bills, I'm like extremely surprised they're not 3-0 right now against that Dolphins game. That was just a weird game in general, but
super weird game.
Huge upset against them last week. I don't think it'll repeat. I think good coaches come back after games like that, and Sean McDermott is amazing. I think everyone knows that.
Might be one of the best coaches. Yeah,
For
he's
sure.
insane.
And the Baltimore offense is equally as great. Lamar is at an MVP level again. He might be the MVP frontrunner right now. Josh Allen is up there too, but I mean, he's a touchdown machine, and yet again, their defense has been kind of underwhelming though, so I'm a little worried about that. I think the Bills probably take this one, probably by 2 touchdowns, I'd say. I just think it's a bounce back game for the Bills.
I love this game. Do you have any idea what time this one's at?
Noon.
Why? They keep on doing.
I know.
It was Bills Dolphins at noon, and we don't get that at our reception here in Illinois. So last week I had to watch Carolina play the Saints.
That's disgusting.
Why?
Their picks for that. That's
No.
very
So
interesting.
yeah. So we got Bills Ravens. In my opinion, probably the game of the week. Just slated right at noon because it's Josh Allen. We probably got to watch. What is this? Broncos and Raiders game? Is that one at 3? There you go. We got to watch Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson. Oh man. Anyways, yeah. Bills and Ravens. This one's awesome. Obviously, this is probably the 2 MVP frontrunners. I know we have a constant thing about Jalen Hurts, and he's still been playing really, really well. But I don't know who I'd go with in this one. I'm honestly probably gonna go Ravens, only because right now we're filming this on Tuesday. I don't know what the Bills secondary like their health is like, and that definitely was a struggle against the Dolphins. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens just because Lamar's been so electric, and I think they can possibly expose that Bills team if they're a little injury-ridden on the defensive side like they were.
For whatever reason, they seem to always limit teams to like under 17, 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, I mean, the defense is just, the secondary, pass rush, everything is just great about the defense. They just have a way of limiting teams to like under 20 points, it seems like all the time. So,
Yeah.
very impressed by them. That's why I'm going with the Bills, I guess.
Yeah, I'll go with the Bills too. This will be a very, very high-scoring game, I think, especially if all those Bills injuries in the secondary, those guys are out. It's going to be a really, really high-scoring game. I think the Bills are going to win it. This game could end up being like 42-38, something like that. I mean,
It'd be a great game to watch in primetime, wouldn't it?
It would. It would be
be.
a great game.
Yeah, right there.
At night, Ravens are in the all black.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So next game, Broncos Raiders, like we just discussed earlier. I think they're in the 3:30 slot.
Nice.
I'd have to double check that, but I do think they're in the
Nathaniel
3:30
Hackett
slot.
versus the 0-3 Raiders. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
the Raiders, nothing has worked right so far this year for them. I don't understand why they're not giving it to Devontae Moore. He was my favorite player on the Packers, and then they're just not using him. With that college connection between Carr and Devontae, I just don't understand why it's not being used as much. But I do think things are going to finally work out for them this week. I think the Broncos are like the perfect team for them to be playing after starting 0-3 to just get their confidence back up. The Broncos have just been kind of underwhelming on offense. Nathaniel Hackett is just not really a good coach so far. I don't really know what to think of it. Like, he just doesn't really handle situations well, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't understand how come that chemistry with Rodgers hasn't turned out to be good when he's a head coach. Yeah, he's been pretty questionable, and I think the Raiders offense is just going to kind of turn on the gas this week against the Broncos defense. Even though they have been fairly well this year, they've been limiting teams to like 10 points, 12 points, 13 points so far this year. I'm picking the Raiders 25, Broncos 17.
It's an interesting one, especially from what we've seen this dumpster fire of the Raiders team. But man, the Broncos. I mean, I hate watching them play. They're so. I mean, you watch that 49ers game. Granted, the 49ers have very good defense. I think that's honestly that might be an understatement, but just let Russ cook. What?
Is it too
Hot dogs and cereal? Is that what you're cooking for us?
Slices, yeah.
Is it too early to say Russ is kind of overrated in a sense?
I don't say overrated's the right term because obviously he's had a really, really good run, but I think that last year we started to see the signs of decline, and a lot of people were like, nah, it's just because he doesn't like the Seahawks, he doesn't like all that stuff. We heard the same thing about James Harden, these guys that kind of on the descent, a lot of guys making excuses for them, honestly. It's clear that Russ doesn't like to do it. I'm not saying Russ is even not a top 10 quarterback, because I think he's easily top 12. He fits within that range, but yeah, it's clear he's not the same. Nathaniel Hackett, might be the funniest coach to watch in the NFL, but doesn't necessarily mean I want to watch him on Sunday.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this is a game where the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. I don't know how the Raiders keep losing. I've picked them to win every single week. They've lost every single week. Last week against the Titans, now I'm convinced, okay, they might just not be good.
Yeah.
They may just not be good. And now they're going up against another team that may just not be good, even though they're like a pseudo, what are they, 2-1 now?
Yeah, 2-1.
I mean, this is going to be a crappy game to watch. I will not be watching this game. I have respect for myself. I guess I'll pick the Raiders. I have no idea.
Let's go with the Raiders.
I have no idea. I guess I'll go with the Raiders.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I put it on the lineup, because I was just like, this is an intriguing matchup just because I don't really like the game at all.
No.
Neither team interests me very much. But next game on my list here, I'm going with my Packers over the Patriots. The defense is just unreal for Green Bay. Limiting Tom Brady to 12 points, I think that's great. Although the offense is extremely underwhelming so far this year. Whenever the second half comes, I think they've only had about like 6 points in the second half total this year across all 3 games. So that's really underwhelming with an Aaron Rodgers-led team and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I think they need to move through the running backs a little bit more than they have in the past. They did that in the first half, but strayed away from it in the second half. I don't really understand why. And then, of course, they don't score points. So, Mac Jones is hurt. I don't really know who's going to start. It might be Brian Hoyer. It might be Bailey Zapp. The offense was already underwhelming for them before.
Yeah.
So, without Mac Jones, it'll obviously be worse. And I just think the Packers' pass rush is just going to be licking their chops all day long. They might get like 3 interceptions, 7 sacks, crazy defensive game. That's my prediction, I guess.
That's pretty hopeful on a Packers fan front. I think the Patriots, they're lucky that they got to play Mitch Trubisky in week 2. Otherwise, they'd be with the Raiders going 0-3. I hate everything I've watched from them. You got Matt Patricia, offensive coordinator. I mean, Mac Jones, we all criticize Mac Jones, and I knew Mac Jones was, he's kind of that game manager type. And people were talking him up last year. I've never been a huge Mac Jones believer. But so you got Matt Patricia at offensive coordinator, and then you're going to put Brian Hoyer in there or Bailey Zappi in there. I mean, Packers are winning. They're I'd say this is 100% a lock, unless for whatever reason it's Packers at Patriots, right?
It is.
Well, unless 12 inches of snow randomly comes in October and makes this a run-style game, even then, probably the Packers win. I mean, I think this is kind of a sneaky one where I could see, for whatever reason, Bill Belichick just putting something together, but I doubt it. I think this one, you might see an Alabama-type spread in this one. I haven't ended up checking it yet, but...
Known Packers hater myself. Taking the emotions out of this game, I think it'll be a really ugly one. And of course, thank God that this is the 325 CBS game that we all want to watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Patriots, Packers.
Yeah, definitely.
Patriots with backup quarterback, worst offense that they've had in a long time. Packers with the worst offense they've had in a long time. This will be a sluggish, ugly game to watch. I think Aaron Rodgers will probably make a good throw toward the end of the game that will seal it. I don't think it'll be too much of a blowout, maybe, because Brian Hoyer, known fantastic backup quarterback at times, especially when he was in Chicago.
What's he at? Was he like 42 now? He's like, isn't he
Something
so
like
old?
that, but obviously, yeah, he's way past.
I feel like he's been there
He's way
forever.
past his backup prime, if you will. Packers win this game, probably another ugly game to watch. Thank God it's the one on national TV.
Mhm.
Sarcastically.
My bias with the Packers might have me giving them a little bit more points. I got the final at 27-13. I definitely think it'll
That's
be
fair.
10 plus that they'll win by.
I think that's fair.
That is fair.
Yeah.
Next game, I got Chiefs and Bucks. This is the Sunday night game. And there's some interesting circumstances with this game with the hurricane, as we mentioned earlier with the Clemson game. Who knows if this will even be played or not? Who knows where it'll be played, what the circumstances are. I just think it's a really interesting circumstance that the Bucks are having to face. I believe today they're holding practice with Miami, so that's just weird, taking their routine out of everything. And I just think the Chiefs' offense is going to be able to attack the Bucks' defense, even though they have been very good this year. But they were kind of limited last week against the Colts. I mean, they lost 17-20. Who would have thought that they would lose in a low-scoring game? So the only way that I think the Bucks win this one is if if they don't let any of that hurricane stuff get to them, and their defense is lights out again, and Brady makes one play or two around the end of the game, just like he did last week against Packers, to tie it up or take the lead or whatever. So I think it'll be Chiefs 26, Bucks 17. That's what I'm going with. But I feel like it might be a bit bigger than that, bigger of a blowout than that, I should say. Just too much stuff where the Bucks are going wrong right now. They got a bunch of receivers kind of injured, and then obviously, like I said, the hurricane stuff and everything. And the offensive line just not doing too much. Brady's situation with his personal life, some of that stuff. Chiefs roll in this game, I'm thinking.
If not for the Broncos facing the Raiders, this might be Cole's battle of turds. And I know that's a weird thing to say
About the Chiefs?
with the Chiefs and the Bucks, but I hated both last week for the Bucks and the Chiefs. The Chiefs game with the Colts, they looked awful. And then you see that Eric Bieniemy stuff with Patrick Mahomes, and they're making about, you know, when you watch the Chiefs versus the Bengals last year, and the Chiefs, I'm kind of a Bengals fan, love Joe Burrow and stuff, but the Chiefs could have put the Bengals away in the first half, but they decided to go for that weird, it's like second and goal, and they throw it, I believe, like right before the half, and they run all the clock out. They were just kind of doing that kind of stuff against the Colts, that awful field goal fake play, and then they still have Matt Amendola in there. The Bucks, Tom Brady's still struggling. I mean, they'll have Mike Evans back for that game. I don't know if Chris Godwin will be back or not. I almost kind of want to go with the Bucks here, although I'm pretty high on the Chiefs this season. But the Bucks have a really good defense that I know will cause problems for the Chiefs, and Tom Brady's still getting it done. They can still dominate time of possession with Leonard Fournette back there. The Chiefs, I think the Chiefs just, in a lot of games, I'll see teams where the Bills are running the football, and I almost just want to go, you have Josh Allen. Just pass. Like, just pass.
Yeah.
That's all that you need to do. But with the Chiefs, it's almost weird because I want them to run it more. Because they just seem like a team that is so inept at running. I think part of that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't know if you saw that read that he had that went viral where he's behind an offensive lineman, and Patrick Mahomes is pointing at the hole for him, and he bounces out and loses 4 yards. I think that they really got to fix their running back room. It's going to be a good game. That being said, I could see the Bucks winning this one, and I guess, man, I think I'm going to go against my gut on this one. I've been riding the Chiefs all season, but I'm going to go with the Bucks.
Who would have thought that Cole's battle of the turds would be Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady?
It's one of those things. It's not, because like I said, there's Broncos and Raiders, which I've already had my whole spiel about that, but Battle of the Turds isn't just the two worst teams. I hated what I saw last week. I don't like the trending direction that they're going in.
Yeah, and both teams just situationally are chaotic right now. I mean, heading into this game, neither team is really. I don't think either team will be like fully ready to play. Both teams clearly have things they need to figure out. Bucks are better defensively. That's the only reason I'm sort of leaning them right now, especially if all this stuff with Bieniemy and Mahomes is kind of culminates in this, dysfunction offensively. A part of me thinks that maybe that's just a little smoke and mirrors, and they might come out this week and play a lot better than they did. I still think the Bucks will keep it close. I'll go with the Chiefs. I'll go with Joey on the Chiefs in this one. I don't feel good about it though. I kind of want to puke saying it out loud. I'll just stick with the Chiefs though. I don't like it though. I don't like it.
Alrighty. Well, that does it for all of our picks this week. We thank you so much for joining the third ever episode of the Inside Sports Podcast. That was, of course, with a DE capitalized. Please be sure to check out the Daily Egyptian. Check out whatever the new and improved River Region is going to be putting out here coming up soon. We'll obviously talk about that on the pod when it comes out. We want to thank Joey and Jordan for taking the time to host this with me, and we'll hopefully see you guys next week. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube, or just be sure to follow us on Spotify.